Hey everybody, my name is Paul Eston Jr., aka Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. We're streaming live simultaneously in 3 different places. The Heavy on Jets Facebook page to over 25,000 New York Jet fans. On my YouTube channel, youtube.com/BoyGreen25. And of course, Team Verified, baby, at BoyGreen25 on Twitter. And it is Jets Bills week, and there is no better person to bring on these airwaves than the one and only Sal Capaccio. He is the Buffalo Bills sideline reporter, and we bring him in here on the show, and it's fantastic. He's our guy. Sal, what's popping, baby?
Listen, couple things. First of all,
yes,
there are not many people in this life that have more energy than me. You might qualify because I am a very energetic person. I'm a little subdued now because I don't even know if I can match your energy, and I love it. I love your energy. But no, it's awesome to be on with you. And the second thing is, I wish we could talk more often. You and I have the same show, like same time on radio.
Yes, right.
So never actually make it work. But so just so you know, much love from over here in the 716, brother.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And actually, that's a beautiful place to start because for people who don't know of you, and I'm not sure how they wouldn't, because Pat McAfee show, Mr. Superstar. I know that we were bridging, I remember a couple years ago, and it had to have been somewhat recent. We're talking about you bridging and almost getting close to that 100K mark on Twitter in terms of the followers. Now we're at 140K, somewhere plus like that. Sal, what a beautiful journey. I saw you actually tweet about it. You know, what was it, a decade or so ago? What was the tweet that just happened recently talking about your path here?
Oh, that was you know what it was? 15 years ago, Halloween night. Halloween night
Wow,
was just
15.
a few nights. 15 years ago was my first time I ever hosted a show on WGR.
Wow.
I did not get hired yet. I was auditioning for a job essentially. And I didn't actually get hired and move up for 4 years after that. But so because of a lot of circumstances, but they liked me enough to keep me around and, it took 4 years, right? I was on the practice squad, I guess, for 4 years. But, it was 15 years. And the reason I remember that is I remember I was living in Florida. I had to drive to a station in St. Petersburg, and they put me in like a small room. And I was actually the only communication I had on who was on hold and on the line was through AOL Instant Messenger with the producer back in the day. And I remember telling people on the air, "Hey, it's Halloween night. Be careful. There's trick-or-treaters running around." And the topic that night was, who should you want at quarterback for the Bills, J.P. Lossman or Trent Edwards? We've come a long way, baby.
Yeah, well, let me ask you about that, because that to me is fascinating. I was just talking with Bills fans again, us both being in New York again, you covering the Bills and me doing both the Jet stuff and the Syracuse stuff. That like I am fully in Bills Mafia all the time on social media. And it doesn't feel like that long ago, but it does at the same time. The 17-year playoff drought, mired in mediocrity, this and that, us going back and forth, almost like putting our hands in the middle. Hey, one of us going to beat New England this year? All right, we'll kind of see what happens. And now the Buffalo Bills, it's not, J.P. Lossman, Trent Edwards. The Buffalo Bills entered this season as the unquestioned Super Bowl favorite and everything else. How far do Bills fans feel removed from that? Because, the Bills people I'm talking to, and for good reason, there's an arrogance, there's a confidence, there's a swag that comes with Bills fans right now that I'm not quite sure that I sensed just a few years ago when we're talking about some of those kind of things.
Yeah, I think it's finally time that people kind of know that they're in this spot. They have been, and they're going to be for a while, right? But there's still a lot of scar tissue built up, buddy. And, people remember those days. And I know you're going through your own drought over there, 11 years without the playoffs. And it went 17 years. Can you imagine another 6 years without the playoffs for the Jets, right? I mean, it's possible, right? But
yeah, sure. Right.
When we were year 10, year 11, we didn't know when it was going to end. And there's the New England Patriots. And I think the Bills and Jets could have made an all-star team and still maybe not beaten the Patriots in some of those years. Right. Yeah. But I think now Bills fans, it's not just the team. It's the quarterback. That's what really does it here. You said that, the Bills were the unquestioned, favorites in the betting line to win the Super Bowl. And they still are the favorites. They also had the favorite to win MVP, and he still is the favorite as well, Josh Allen. Wow. It's really about that. It's about Josh Allen. It's about this team they have, the front office, the coaching staff. But with this great, roster they have and this chance to win, you have superstars. You have Josh Allen, Von Miller, Stephon Diggs. And I think that's what also gets people in their chest to come out. Look, we're Buffalo. We're not New York. We're not LA. We're not Chicago, the bright lights of all these cities. So now to have a team like this that's special, but also with the personalities and superstars that come along with it, I think that's what's also allowing Bills fans to kind of really enjoy what's going on here even more.
Sal, you've had some great deep dives, and I really appreciate it. It's a couple of years ago, actually, you had that article of Brandon Beane talking about the trade deadline and working through a couple of things, which is fascinating. So you talk about all those things you just said, that the Bills, again, Super Bowl favorite then, still Super Bowl favorite now. Josh Allen, MVP then, MVP now in terms of the odds. So it would be compelling from the outside looking in for the Bills to, quote unquote, push their chips in the middle of the table for a Christian McCaffrey. Alvin Kamara, I know Brandon Beane clarified that in his comments this week when he spoke after the trade deadline, but for the outside looking in, if the Bills really do believe that they're right there, and they have been for a few years, but one thing or another has stopped them, why wouldn't they offer the package that the 49ers did, who believe they're in a similar position of trying to go over the top and make it happen? Why wouldn't you do that as opposed to the move you ended up doing, Nyheim Hines, who, by the way, I love and actually did some damage to the Jets last year when the Colts ran up 260 yards, which Robert Saleh recounted this week. But why wouldn't the Bills do that? And why wouldn't they? I know the plan has been slow and steady, but every once in a while, the moment strikes. It seems like that could have been a moment for the Bills.
Well, I think they had that moment in the offseason when they signed Von Miller to a $20 million per year contract,
sure.
Right? It wasn't, you didn't have to give up an asset. You just paid the guy.
Right, correct.
That's pushing all your chips in, right? We're going after a 33-year-old defensive end, giving him $20 million a year, giving him 6 years. Who knows if he's going to see all 6 years of that contract, but that's your all-in move. So then you get to this point in the season, you're 6-1, you're at the trade deadline, you're right there. You see what McCaffrey goes for, you see what Alvin Kamara goes for. And I think the answer is basically what Brandon Beane has always said to us, which is he has 2 jobs. He's trying to win a Super Bowl, of course. Everybody wants to win a Super Bowl. We've never had a Lombardi here in Buffalo. That's, first and foremost. But his job is also to keep this team in contention for championships for many years. That's what he's trying to do. And right now they're set up to do that. I have bad news for Jets fans and every other fan of the AFC East. If the Bills don't win it this year, they're going to come right back next year and be in the same spot. Like, this is the team they are now. This is what they're going to be for the next several years. I'll give you an example and a little anecdote on that.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, Josh Allen's. Can I call you Boy? Boy Green.
Yes, yes, you can. Yeah, you're the first one though, but I love it. I love it. Yes, roll with it.
Paul, my man. Josh Allen's contract extension doesn't even kick in until next year.
Yeah,
think about that.
So funny,
right? I mean, he's on his 5th-year option essentially this year, and then his contract extension kicks in. The reason why I say that is to go back to your original question. Brandon Beane doesn't want to ruin that window in any regard. He's going to need draft picks going forward. He's going to have to pay Josh. He's going to have to pay other people. He's going to have to offset those higher salaries like Von Miller, Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, and some of the guys they've re-signed with some lower contracts. And with those lower contracts are rookies that you're going to have to hit on. And they have hit on rookies. They've done a really good job in the draft the last couple of years. They cannot mortgage the future. And then you think about running back. What does a running back really do for this team? If you spend that kind of capital on a running back, you're going to have to justify it by giving him the ball. You don't want the Bills handing off the ball a lot. You want Josh Allen throwing the ball. That's how the Bills are built. As great as McCaffrey is or Kamara is, I'm not trying to diminish what they bring. That's not the Bills' identity. The Bills' identity is Josh Allen and having a really nice group of running backs to turn to complement that.
So with that being said, and that's funny, that was some of the things I was going through. And again, I'm not a Bills guy, but I was like, man, if you get one of those guys and the ball's out of Josh Allen's hands, which I think a lot of other teams would be like, yeah, Chris McCaffrey's good, but that's better because they're not as good as Josh Allen. So with that group that they have, Nyheim Hines, there's a lot of guys that seem to do a lot of similar things together. Is that group enough of, I don't even want to call it a threat because Josh Allen in himself is the threat along with the passing game. Is that enough of a balance or even the threat of a balance that group is good enough as is? And maybe, again, why perhaps not go out and do one of those other moves?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's the one that we debate here a lot, right? Do they have enough in the run game? I think when it comes to what I think a lot of people may have thought they would have done was get a power running back, somebody that can really kind of get that short yardage. The Bills have actually not been great in short yardage situations this year, but now they've actually turned to Josh to do some of those sneaks again, which they went away from, and he's been very good at it. And like you point out, Josh is a part of the running game. Whether you want him to be or not, he has to be. That's who he is. If you take that away from him, he's not Josh Allen. He's right there. Him and Devin Singletary are very close in rushing yards. But I'll also tell you, Paul, Devin Singletary, the last 4 games, he's averaging over 5 yards a carry. I mean, he's been good. They just don't give him the ball a ton because that's not who they are. Now you add Nyheim Hines. Now let me rewind everything for everybody. Let's go back to March. The Bills agreed to terms with J.D. McKissick.
Oh, that was messed up.
Right. And J.D. McKissick went back to the Commanders, and the Commanders, the Bills were very upset because they kind of, they basically, hey, okay, good luck, go to Buffalo. And then, oh, wait, no, we want you back. You're not really supposed to do that. It was, it's an unwritten kind of thing. Anyway, the point is they thought they had their pass catching running back. They've been searching for this type of player for a while. Then they go out and draft James Cook, who they probably don't draft it. They get J.D. McKissick, right?
Right.
Now he's a rookie. It's been a slow start for him. He's starting to come out now, but I think the Bills really wanted someone who's done it, who's been there, that they trust. Naeem Hines has. He's been in this league for a while. And now they have a punt returner. They can take Khalil Shakir, another rookie, put him more on the offensive side, not put that on his plate. I think they believe they got better in 3 areas here by making this trade, which is the running back room to get the kind of guy they wanted, the punt return game because they're getting a veteran who's done it in all conditions, and at wide receiver because now Khalil Shakir can focus more on that and be a part of the offense.
Sal, where's the weakness for Buffalo? So I see this 6-1 team coming in. I look at the one loss, and there's a lot of things that you could go down the checklist and say, the Miami Heat was weird. They dominated statistically, time of possession, everything else. And somehow, weirdly, they just lost. I still don't know if anyone could explain how they lost if you would have shown them all those things. So where's the blemish here? Because besides that weird one, they've won every other game.
And in that weird game, they did have one play that kind of stands out. They give up a 3rd and 17, a long pass, which they never do. Part of the reason is because Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde were both out of the game. And then against the Packers last week, they gave up another long pass for a touchdown, which they never do because Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer were out of the game. Micah Hyde is out for the year. Jordan Poyer is out this week against the Jets.
Yes,
now, they have nice safeties. They have nice backups. Damar Hamlin, Jaquan Johnson, they just traded for Dean Marlowe, who knows the system very well. He's going to fit right back in here. But if you want to talk about an opportunity, a weakness, however you want to put it, if Jordan Poyer isn't healthy, which he's banged up a little bit this year, he's missed some games, that presents opportunity maybe to be able to throw the ball down the field more than teams have been able to against the Bills in years past. When you have 2 all-pro safeties back there who've done such a great job for 5 years, as you know, you're not getting anything against those guys. Now, granted, the Bills system itself takes care of a lot of this. They play a lot of too high. They keep everything underneath, and they have a lot of confidence in those guys. But if you want to talk about maybe where a weakness might be, that could be it. Now, they're getting stronger in the secondary because Tre'Davious White's coming back, right? I mean, he's coming back off the ACL. He'll be back maybe against the Jets. We'll see if he plays this week or how much that is or not. And the other area might be, again, going back to the running game. Maybe it's a little bit on the offensive line, the interior, running between the tackles, running in those short yardage situations. But you really got to nitpick, Paul. If you want to figure out something wrong with this team, you got to nitpick on it. And I think that's a great situation, obviously.
100%. So you just mentioned it that both safeties are out, one out for the year and then one out in particular for this game. Any other injury report notes? Again, Tre'Davious White obviously still up in the air because, again, he's been a situation watch. We'll get to him specifically a little bit later. But overall injury report heading into Jets week, anything else worth monitoring?
Yeah, Von Miller. We don't know if he's going to play or not.
Right, yes.
He rolled his ankle in the game against the Green Bay Packers on Sunday night. I had Sean McDermott this morning on my radio show. I had Sean McDermott on my radio show this morning.
Yeah. WGR 550?
That's right. We have him every Friday, so I had him on, and he said the only player he's ruling out at that point, that was 10:35 in the morning on Friday, is Jordan Poyer, which means Von Miller is, who knows if he's going to play, but he missed a couple practices. He did practice on Friday. Matt Milano, another one. Interesting with Matt, he has an oblique injury. Term day-to-day, missed Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm sorry, Wednesday and Thursday practice. Did return to practice Friday in some capacity. We'll see if he plays. Generally, I would say the Bills have been erring more on the side of caution with these kinds of things. They have good backups, Tyrell Dodson, Terrell Bernard. But Paul, Matt Milano, who, by the way, his family's from New York.
Yes, I know, a New York guy.
They grew up Jets fans.
Yeah, I know.
I know Mike and Janet, his parents, real well. Obviously, they're hardcore Bills fans now, right? But great people.
Right.
But it'd be nice if Matt got a chance to play back in New York again, where his family's from originally. But I don't know if it's going to happen. The Bills do take the long approach on a lot of these things sometimes. And I would say though that Matt Milano is playing at I think an All-Pro level, let alone a Pro Bowl level. I think he's playing tremendous right now, and he's finally getting the recognition he deserves. So those are really the 3: Milano, Poyer, and then Edmonds. Tremaine Edmonds has been limited this week too, but I don't think you should have anything there. And Von Miller, we'll see about him.
And there's a very interesting rub. Robert Saleh, when he's asked about Edmonds, calls him this alien, and he loves him. And of course, he's a linebacker guy, so it makes sense that you have that. And I hear from Bills fans, Edmonds sucks. Trade Edmonds. We hate this. So it's just it's a great juxtaposition. 100%. Every Jets Bills week, I tweet out those clips, and then some Jet fans are like, okay, Tremaine Edmonds. Bill said, hate that guy. So it's always fun to see that back and forth. So that's very interesting. And, of course, I got to remind everybody, again, follow Sal Capaccio, Sal Gastar Capaccio on Twitter at Sal Sports. And, of course, WGR 550 in Buffalo. Like the video, hit subscribe, show your support for the program, of course. And I have to ask you, Sal, how the heck are the Bills looking at this game? I know how Vegas apparently is looking at this game. 12.5 points. That line has fluctuated throughout the week with money going towards Buffalo and the like. And this is in MetLife. The Bills, of course, 6-1. Jets 5-3, blowing one against New England. A different time and story, perhaps, for that. But how are Bills fans looking at this? Are they just LOL Jets? A lot of people have been doing that for a long time. Or are they taking this somewhat more seriously?
Bills fans you're asking about specifically?
Both, actually, kind of fans and also your that you guys are looking at.
Yeah, I think let's see. Well, I'll say it this way.
Yeah.
Fresh in our memories here in Buffalo is the Bills going to the Jags last year and losing as huge
right.
favorites,
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that was wild.
And that was right around this time of year, I think, if I remember right. And I think the Bills, they learned a lot of lessons in that 13 seconds at Kansas City. We talked about that. I think they learned lessons against Indianapolis, the way they ran the ball against them last year and dominated them. And I think they learned a lot of lessons in that Jags game. So, I think we all know anything can happen in this league. You can go the Bills in Josh Allen's rookie year. They were 17-point underdogs and went to Minnesota and won, right? I mean, it probably might
that was the hurdle
right?
game, right?
Yeah, that's the first hurdle game against Anthony Barr. So I think everybody understands that can definitely happen. And look, I will tell you, Bills fans, Bills media, we talked about it on our radio show, lots of respect for the Giants defense. I've been saying all week, they have players at all three levels, whether it's Quinnen Williams, CJ Mosley, or Sauce Gardner, who has incredible numbers, not just for a rookie, but incredible numbers. I think there's a healthy respect for that Jets defense. I would say not so much for the offense, though, to be quite frank, which is, I think the way people are looking at it is, if you lose Von Miller or Matt Milano, does it really change anything on defense? I mean, the Bills defense is already really good and the Jets offense is struggling. And all you got to do is get after Zach Wilson. He panics, he throws, he makes bad decisions. He's not good under pressure. I think that's it, which is, hey, you know what? Even if the Bills don't have their 30-point output, they're averaging 29 points a game. Can you really see the Jets getting more than 10, 13 points in this game? That's how people are looking at it. I think the Jets can, if they can make a couple plays to turn the Bills over, to get a couple of stops, maybe early on in downs, flip the field a little bit. It's got to take that, though. I think the path of victory for the Jets, to me, is old school football. Run the ball, keep the ball away from Josh Allen, grind some clock down and play really good defense and get a couple of turnovers here and there. Maybe make a play in special teams. They got to play that old school kind of game. But I think the general feeling, it's not LOL Jets, but it's, this offense really doesn't scare us at all. So as long as you don't make any stupid mistakes, you should be okay.
And that's really the pinpoint, because when you analyze the Bills season, even in their loss, but also offensive output, 19 points was the lowest, again, in that weird Bills-Dolphins game. It seems like no matter what, at least to this point, no one has, quote-unquote, stopped the Bills or contained the Bills. You have to score points. That seems like a bare minimum to do anything, to even hope for a win. You have to score points. It seems like you have to be in that 20s and maybe even 30s to be able to do that in any possible blueprint.
I think so. And here I would say that Sunday night, the Bills, they did not have their A game, Paul. And they still won by 10 points over the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers, right? I mean, that's why they're the big favorite this week. That's why the Vegas can't kind of make that number high enough sometimes in Bills games, is what people come on our station and say. But they did not play really well. And I'll tell you, they were mad about it. After that game, Josh Allen was not happy with the way they played. Sean McDermott was, hey, we got to play better. So I don't know. I don't think that spells great news for Jets and their fans, with the Bills offense being upset at the way they played last week, especially in the second half, and saying we have to play better. But this is a good challenge for them. Let me ask you, Sauce Gardner, does he do any shadowing at all? Does he follow the team's number one receiver?
It's funny because when I was there for the Jets-Bills game in MetLife last season, and what the Bills noticed is the Jets didn't move their corners. So Stephon, go over there. That's Javon Guidry and Bryce Hall, and they got him. And they knew, apparently, according to all the metrics, that Robertson would refuse to move him. So they said, all right, all the way down the field. I remember that at the end of the first half when they dominated that. In this particular case with the new talent, and this is why I expected, if the Jets made these big moves, they would change their philosophy. They only did that based on lack of talent. So Sauce actually does shadow. He shadowed Mark Andrews in Baltimore on the season opener. So they will use him situationally, but they also have the confidence, if you want to call it that both, they have three corners all ranked in the top 15 in PFF pass coverage, with Michael Carter II in the slot, Sauce and DJ Reed on the outside. So it'll be situational. There will be occasions where They just go Sauce, Stefan, follow him, and he will do that. But they've also had other analytics on the other side that suggest they love just doing islands on both sides. Say, all right, come on, step up. So I want to use that to launch into my next one, Sal. I tweeted out the stat at the beginning of the week, which was from Dan Hansis. He's phenomenal, NFL.com, does a lot of great stuff. He had the stat that the Bills are 11-0 when their top receiver gets over the 100-yard receiver mark. Now, that's not always Stefan Diggs. Most of the time it is, but that's not always the case. And then Dan Hansis also included the number against Green Bay that Josh Allen, when targeting any other receiver not named Stefan Diggs, who was 7 of 17 and had 2 picks. So is it that reliant, or is that kind of a weird sample size of analyzing that from the Bills receivers dominating to leading to it? Because in some sense, if I squint, it seems like a weird stat, but on others, it kind of makes sense.
Well, there's a couple of things here. I think any team that if you have a receiver go over 100 yards, it helps your chances of winning, means you're moving the ball down the field, obviously, right? But when you have Stefan Diggs going over 100 yards or Gabriel Davis going over 100 yards, generally it comes along with big plays because Josh is a big play guy. We know that, he's third in the league in yards per attempt, I think, at this point. Stefan is a scorer. That's what he does. He gets in the end zone. We know that. I think the more interesting one is the second part of that, not targeting Stefan Diggs, because last week wasn't a great week for that. But the 2 interceptions, I will tell you, one was a bad decision by Josh. He just made a bad choice. He threw the ball. Bad throw, I should say, whatever. Maybe he didn't see the defender. The other one, he was trying to throw the ball into the ground and he just kind of didn't do it right. And Jair Alexander caught it. He was trying to really it was in the red zone. Josh never throws an interception in the red zone. He's trying to throw it away. Jair Alexander was right there. I thought the Bills were really forcing the issue last week a little bit. There was a lot of jawing going back and forth between the two sides. And I think they were like, oh, let's show this guy. And let's, maybe they weren't seeing the forest through the trees. But if you could take away Stefan Diggs, yes, I think your chances are greatly enhanced, like you would with any team with their number one weapon. But the Bills haven't quite found, I think it is Gabriel Davis mostly, but he's not a super consistent guy. He's like a big play guy. You saw the 98-yarder a few weeks ago against, Pittsburgh. That's Gabriel Davis. Gabriel Davis is a yards per catch monster. Like this guy is like 20-something yards a catch. It's amazing. But sometimes you can go a whole game. He might have 2 or 3 catches. Sometimes he might have 4 catches for 150 yards, right? Which is crazy. So if you can really do that to Stefan Diggs, that would help your chances. The guy that hasn't been involved in as much this year, and it's going to come at some point, is Dawson Knox. He's been okay, but last year had 9 touchdowns, and he really took kind of the league by, wow, look at this guy, 9 touchdowns. They still use him, but he blocks a little bit more often. They gave him a nice contract extension. So it's not like he's out of favor or anything like that. It just hasn't gone that way where they have had to use him. And now you add Nyheim Hines to the mix. We'll see. I've always said this, Paul. You can't look at the Bills as having wide receivers and tight ends and running backs. What the Bills have are offensive pass catchers. They have offensive weapons, and they'll move them all around to do different things with them.
Well, that's a good rub because, again, the Jets haven't given up a touchdown all season to the tight end position. So if Dawson Knox is able to do it based on his touchdown prowess last year, that could be a kind of an interesting one to watch, especially if they get on some of the Jets linebackers who have had hit and miss moments this season. Let me ask you on Stefan Diggs. Is he a guy that can get his feathers ruffled? Again, we were talking about that with Jair Alexander. It's the same tunnel for the Bills, from what I understand, of players both coming back. So they were John back and forth. Or is that just Stefan's MO when he's talking and chirping and doing all that stuff? That's when it's the best possible version of Stefan. Because I asked that because I know Sauce is a major trash talker. So I don't know if it's Jair Alexander round 2 potentially this week.
So first of all, the tunnel thing, that's part of the reason they're, one of the things that has to change at the new stadium. And one of the things we talk about all the time, where they have one tunnel leads in and out. It's just not conducive. They're getting a new stadium here. This one's 50 years old. And that tunnel has contributed to a lot of that stuff over the years, which is guys kind of chirping at each other, going back and forth. That happened last week. So on Stefan, he's a trash talker, but I think he feeds off it more than anything. I don't think it rattles him and I think he actually elevates his game a little bit. If you go back a couple of weeks ago against the Kansas City Chiefs, he was mic'd up on the sidelines and he was saying like, "Oh yeah, try me one-on-one. Go back to me. Show me one-on-one. I'll make you call your mom," or something like that. And then they did, and they went to him and he scored the touchdown. And then Jair, awesome. and then Rasul Douglas was giving him right at the end of the first quarter last week. There was this play that wasn't a fumble and people thought it was, and Rasul Douglas and Stefan got into it. During the timeout, I think Stefan said to Josh, "Just throw me the ball." Then very first play out of the next quarter, he beat him for a touchdown one-on-one. I mean, that's just who he is. He's gonna get into it with you, but it will not affect his game. And in fact, I think it might elevate it. Let's remember, he went against Jalen Ramsey, did a really good job. He's going against Marshawn Lattimore, done a really good job, right? So Stefan welcomes those challenges, and I don't think he's not going to back down to anybody when it comes to the trash talk. That's for sure.
All right, let's go back to Von Miller as we're going to kind of wrap up here before we get you out of here. And interesting, when you guys brought in Von Miller, again, the move of not just the Bills being willing to pay that much. We've seen it Mario Williams a bunch of years ago. They were willing to throw down the bag for him. But Von Miller choosing to come to the Bills when he had other contending options. He had Cowboys. Again, there was the home thing there. There was the Rams. There was that to go back to. I didn't think he was going to have that kind of impact when I saw against the Rams, just even week one, and I know it's been consistent throughout. It's not just what Von Miller can do. It's almost like his pass rush ability is almost infectious to everyone else in the Bills defensive line and opening up favorable matchups for them, and they've been dominating. Even if Von Miller is out for this game, do the Bills have the Bills the rest of the pass rush been feeding off of Von Miller and the attention he draws, and thus they're opening up? Or are they even better in that department than they have been in the past? Because that's kind of an interesting thing heading into this one.
They have been better than they have been in the past because they overhauled the defensive line. Like that was the only position group on the team they really did overhaul. But Von Miller just helps everybody when he's there, right? When he's on the field, it helps Ed Oliver a lot. It helps Tim Settle and Daquan Jones in the interior, and those guys have been really good. It helps Greg Rousseau coming off the other edge for sure. So I think, having Von Miller obviously will help. The Bills don't like to blitz. They don't blitz a lot. They're one of the fewest blitzing teams in the league. I wonder if they do this week, though, because we've seen when Zach Wilson's under a little bit of pressure, obviously speeds him up a little bit. He doesn't make as good of decisions. They want to get home with the front four. If they can do that, that's the perfect scenario. That's kind of their recipe to win on defense a lot, is get pressure with the front four. That's a big reason they signed Von, Paul, which is for how many years here? They've been in this window where they're trying to take that next step, and it always comes down to they just can't generate enough pressure with their front four, and guys like Patrick Mahomes just get that extra second or two to throw it. They've been able to do that now by having Von Miller, getting pressure with the front four, and you see the results on the defense. They are the top scoring defense in the league. They're only allowing 14 points a game.
All right, Sal, let's finish it up. We always hold whoever our guest is behind enemy lines and pull out the gosh darn crystal ball. How's this thing playing out, whether against the spread or just straight up? What do you believe is going to happen here? Are the Bills just going to roll? Are they just going to run over this Jets team? Are the Jets going to be more feisty than you think at home? What's your gut say, Sal?
So the Bills, average 29 points a game.
Yes.
I think it'll be tougher to get there with this Jets defense. But what I do think is going to happen is the Jets offense is probably going to not perform very well against this Bills defense. That gives the Bills shorter fields. It'll give them an opportunity to score more points to be able to do that. So I'm going to give the Bills 30, but not because I think they run all over the Jets defense. I think it's because they're probably going to have opportunities to score because they'll stop the Jets offense. I can't see the Jets having more than 13 points in this game. I'm going to say 30-13. That covers the spread, obviously. The Bills generally over the last 2 years, when they win, they blow teams out. They have had one or two close wins more recently, like the Baltimore game was a close win in Kansas City. Other than that, they blow teams out. That's no disrespect to the Jets. I don't want it to come off that way. And here's the Bills sideline reporter coming on your show saying, Bills by 17, 30-13. The Bills have the Jets. I have a healthy respect for. I think they're still trying to figure out the quarterback position. And man, I'll tell you, if they had Breece Hall, it might be a little bit different. He's so fun to watch.
I know.
I'm so upset as football fans not being able to watch him. I just can't see the Jets being able to really get off the mat on offense against this Bills defense.
And that's very fair. And by the way, I don't know if it was as strong with you guys, but I know on Bills fans, they were begging for Breece Hall as the pick. And even some were, I know Marcel, before he jumped over, he's on the Dolphins. He was a big RB guy and a running back in the first round. And some argued for Breece Hall in the first round for the Bills. Obviously, they went in a different direction. Ultimately, the Jets were the ones that ended up
think
getting
about that
Breece.
for a second. If I can. Think about that.
Yeah, sure.
The Bills, that's their philosophy. Let's go back to the question you asked me earlier about McCaffrey and Kamara. This organization, this under Brandon Beane has shown they just don't want to spend premium assets on a running back, whether it's a first round pick or a huge contract or trading draft picks. They just don't want to do it, which is a big reason why, to go back to why they didn't do it for those two players. They also second round pick on James Cook. That's the biggest premium asset they've spent in 5 years under Brandon Beane.
And again, Rich Price, and it was obviously working for the Jets for the home run hitting. Unfortunately, he's not there. ABT's not there. A lot of injuries have destroyed the Jets, but we'll see how big of a factor it is. And obviously, as we talked about earlier, for the Bills side, Sal, you're the best in the friggin' business. If they're not following you, I don't know how you don't have a billion followers with all the people that are on the planet. But Sal, you're the best. It's great having you here on the show, man. And I'm sure we'll check back in with each other in a couple weeks, man.
Okay, buddy. Always the best to you too. Thank you.
There he is. Sal Capaccio. Again, follow him on Twitter @SalSports for this Jets Bills preview. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.